This is Russ. Yeah, I'm headed out of Costco. Yeah, I had to go there to do some business. Yeah, I had a return item for Mrs. Wright. And, of course, I had to get my pizza. Actually, I'm waiting for my my glasses to come in. Actually, one of the glasses came in. I think it might be the sunglasses. But I figured I'd pick up both glasses at the same time. You know, as I said, I order sunglasses and regular glasses at the same time. So I wanted to make sure they both look and feel the same, rather than picking up one and not the other. Okay. Little notification. You know, the nice thing about the notifications is that you know, whenever you buy something with your credit card, you can set it up so that it sends you a notification, or in case you lose your credit card, somebody buys something with it, you'll know something's being purchased with your card. And then, you know, these smartwatches, this is the one I'm using right now, will show you the notifications, so you don't have to pick up the cell phone. You can just look at your watch and it'll tell you what it is. So that's come in quite handy. I think these smartwatches, you know, it's nice as it is, because they're all digital. You know, you get digital display. This thing tells me the time, and you know, it has a whole bunch of other things too, medical things. I don't really pay that much attention to those things, but I do use it for notifications. I always got an itchy nose. I use it for notifications. I use it for time. On occasion, I have used it for phone calls. Not that often, because usually I'm in the car. I'll use the Apple CarPlay instead. But, you know, if you're out and about and you don't want to grab your phone, you could always talk on your watch. And the sound quality is actually not so bad. I mean, I think it's worse for us to hear it, who's wearing the watch, because it's kind of a thin, small little speaker. But people who have received my calls, or when I've, you know, received their calls and I've talked to them on the watch, they said that the audio sounds pretty decent. Yeah, and that's for all three of the smartwatches that I have. Those were review samples that I had. And so, yeah, I kind of like having the smartwatch. You know, the thing I was thinking about watches, you know, people spend a lot of money on watches that are mechanical watches. And yet, of course, there's digital watches, which came out, when did those come out? In the 70s, I think, something like that. I remember, like, the Pulsar, I think, was one of the first ones that I recall. You know, the first time I ever saw a digital watch was on the James Bond movie. I don't know which movie it was. What was that one? Diamonds Are Forever, maybe? I don't know. One of those early, it was a Roger Moore James Bond movie. I saw the digital watch. I go, wow, that's really cool. You know, prior to that, what was James Bond wearing? Rolex and Omega, one of those. You know, those things are expensive, right? You know, mechanical watches aren't cheap. I mean, it takes a lot of effort to build a mechanical watch properly. But, you know, there's cheap mechanical watches too, but then, you know, there's very expensive ones as well. I think probably the most expensive one I have in my possession currently is my dad's old Omega Seamaster. This is before the Seamaster looks like today's Seamaster. This is like 1960 something. My aunt actually gave it to him as a gift when she came from Hong Kong to the United States. She bought him an Omega watch and gave it to him. So yeah, even back then it was very expensive, and I used to always play with it. I didn't know how expensive the thing was. When my dad passed away, my mom was giving out, you know, the various things, and she gave me the watch because she knew that I was always playing with it when I was younger, so she gave that to me. So anyway, I don't know if those are worth anything now. They probably are. I mean, I know even old watches have some value now. But I don't wear it. It's a mechanical watch. It's self-winding, one of those perpetual motion watches. If you move it, it winds itself, right? So as long as you wear it, it'll wind. Same thing with Rolexes. You know, you move it, it winds. But you can't just go out and buy a Rolex watch. I think most people know that, right? You you have to go on a waiting list and everything, and then they actually research who you are, and then they go through this whole game with you before they even sell you a watch. You know what? Thank you, but no thank you. As nice as it is to have, I don't need that. That's too much for me. Yeah. So I'd buy an Omega though. You don't have to go through that hassle. For a status symbol, forget it. I remember doing search warrants. Look at that segue. I remember doing search warrants when I was working for the police department, and yeah, we'd go into some drug dealers' residence and do search warrants, and yeah, we'd find Rolex watches, and guns, and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I remember one Rolex watch was just sitting up on the guy's dresser, I guess, and one of the investigators goes, "Hey Russ, look at this." Ooh, Rolex. You always kind of wonder if they're real or they're not, because some of the fake Rolexes look pretty real, right? But being that it was from a drug dealer, it probably was real. Yeah. I don't think they went through background checks for them. Maybe probably stole that. I don't know how he got it. An interesting thing was, though, is that, as I'm thinking now about some of these things we used to do, search warrants and things like that, I remember them telling me that, some of the vehicles, I don't know how it is throughout the country, but, I know the California law, because I was working in California at the time, there's asset seizures. So if you are arrested for, like, dealing drugs, we get to take everything that you have, essentially. Yeah. So we had things like BMW cars and everything like that. And so they would take that, and you don't get that stuff back. So I says, what happens to these expensive things like the cars and everything? He goes, oh yeah, we'll probably use them as undercover cars. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, if we're investigating something and we're going undercover, kind of nice to be able to ride up in a BMW, kind of fit the whole thing of what a drug dealer would be like, right? So this is, we'll probably use it for something like that. Yeah. You don't have to even buy the BMW, just take the drug dealer's BMW and use that for undercover work. Yeah. What about all the guns and everything that gets taken? Yeah, the thing is, interestingly, I've fingerprinted my fair share of guns. I mean, hundreds of guns probably. And a lot of the guns aren't great guns. Yeah. A lot of the guns that are used in robberies and burglaries are probably guns that they had gotten illegally somehow. And they're usually they were really cheap guns. I mean, really cheap ones. I mean, every now and then you get a nice one come through, but some of these things you look like, man, is this going to even fire, or is this thing going to explode in my hand if I were to actually shoot something out of it? That's how bad some of these looked. Yeah. And but yeah, on occasion you get some pretty interesting weapons that come in. I remember I told this story once before, way back when, on the other channel, that I remember I was working for Chula Vista at the time, Chula Vista PD, and they had gotten, I think, what was it, a Mac 9 or whatever they call those back then? Somebody had converted it to full automatic mode. It kind of looked like an Uzi. Remember the Uzis? Kind of looked like that. And so they said, well, we have to test fire this to see if it was converted to full automatic, because that's a different charge, because you can't have full automatic weapons. So they says if it's a full automatic weapon, the charge becomes another kind of charge versus they charge you for just possession of a weapon. So we had a firing range downstairs in the basement of the police department. So, so they said, hey, Russ, you want to try shooting this thing? I go, yeah, sure. So I remember the range master telling me, don't shoot my ceiling. I didn't know what he was talking about. So I shot the thing, and of course, there's recoil, right? That recoil brings the weapon up. Shot the ceiling. He goes, I told you not to shoot the ceiling. I remember one of the casings landed on me too. Yeah, it burned me. Yeah, gave me a little burn, because that, those bullets coming out of the casings coming out are really kind of hot. from firing the gunpowder. So exciting times at the police department. They have since moved to a different building. I have not been in the new building since I moved, and then they moved to a new building. I've never seen the new Chula Vista Police Department building. So if you live in Chula Vista, let me know if you've ever been there before. But I remember the department well. It's a smaller department than the San Diego Police Department, and I remember after going from San Diego to Chula Vista, I kept thinking to myself, why am I going to a small department after working for the largest department in the area? San Diego PD is pretty big, right? But I came to appreciate the smaller department. Yeah, you got to know all the officers and everybody that worked there. It was actually kind of nice. Yeah. So, sometimes you think being in the larger place is a better thing. Sometimes the small place is not a bad thing either. I appreciate both of them. San Diego PD had a huge crime lab that, we had everything there. Serology department, that's blood and things. Firearms department, evidence tech division, we had everything. We could test for everything there. Some other departments, not as large, has to send it out to the state lab or regional crime labs to do certain types of analysis. But yeah, I recall doing my fair share of fingerprint work and other things. Most of my daily things there, if I had stuff to do in the lab, it would be dusting for fingerprints. Developing latent prints is basically what you call it. Yeah, fun times. It's always fun when you find an actual print on something. Yeah. And then you lift the print and you put it on a fingerprint card and you kind of think, I wonder if this is going to actually catch the crook. Yeah. And then when it does, then you usually get asked to go to court, to testify to how you process the fingerprint. I remember once I processed the prints on something and then I got, called in to testify. And I remember the defense attorney trying to discredit my method of lifting the fingerprint. And I think it was a dark object, and I used black fingerprint powder, and then I lifted the print. You can definitely see whose print it was and everything. And I remember him saying, he says, "Did you realize that the FBI says that dark objects should be fingerprinted with light-colored fingerprint powder?" I go, "Yeah, that's what the FBI says, but I printed it this way, and we still got the print off of it." His thing of trying to discredit me didn't go anywhere. I mean, the print is the print. Whether you use black powder or white powder, if you're able to lift the print, and that is the print itself, you don't think the jury's going to find you guilty for that? They were grasping at straws at that point. They had nothing else they could rely on. They were hoping to throw the evidence out because I improperly used the wrong fingerprint powder. Hey, they try anything to try to get off. Yeah, that guy went to prison. Anyways, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I'll talk to you guys next time.